Hi there, it's Ed with AppliancePartsPros.com. Today I'm here to help you troubleshoot a GE front-load washer that's getting off balance. This issue could be due to worn shocks, broken springs, or possible concerns with the inner or outer tub bearings. But don't worry, with a bit of guidance, you can tackle this problem yourself. Before we dive in, make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more DIY repair videos. Together, we'll have your washer running smoothly again in no time. With over 2 million products in stock and the know-how to help you do it yourself, we are AppliancePartsPros.com. For today's work, we'll need a 1/4-inch nut driver, channel locks, a Phillips head screwdriver, a 5/16" nut driver, a ratchet set, and a flat blade screwdriver. Also, please remember that safety comes first. Always disconnect your front load washer by unplugging it or switching the breaker off. With the power disconnected, we're ready to dive in and get your washer back to peak performance. When a washer gets off balance, the first place that you'll want to start is to make sure that the shocks are good. Faulty shocks allow the washer to bounce around. While there could be other things, like the springs, inner tub spider, and bearings on the outer tub being faulty, the shocks would be the most common cause for this issue. Let's start with the shocks and how to get to them. Getting to the shocks will be determined by whether it's the front or rear shocks that need to be gotten to. The rear shocks would be pretty straightforward. You would just pull the washer out from the wall, and there's a panel on the back that will be held in by 8 Phillips head screws. Pull the bottom of the panel outward, then slide the panel downward to remove it from the underside. This will give access to the shocks in the rear that you can pull out. You will want to make sure that you check each shock individually to make sure that each shock is good, because all it takes is one bad shock to cause an out of balance issue. To access the front shocks, pull the dispenser out and press on the lock tab, then slide the drawer the rest of the way out. Behind the drawer there will be 5 Phillips head screws that will need to be removed. Pay attention to the screws as they come out and check the threads. There are 2 different types of threads, and you want to make sure that you put them back in the same locations where they came from. Once the screws have been removed, pull the control panel up and off from the front panel and disconnect the wiring harness. We will next need to remove the front panel. We must release the door boot from the front panel and the door latch to do this. You will want to open the washer's door. Use a flat blade screwdriver to hook the band around the door boot and remove the band. Once this is off, you will need to take the door boot loose from the front panel. You will then need to remove the 2 screws holding the door latch in place and remove it from the front panel. We will now remove the 3 Phillips head screws holding the damper to the front panel on the top center of the panel. Next, remove the 6 Phillips head screws across the top of the front panel and the 3 screws at the bottom of the panel. Then, slide the damper toward the back and release the tabs from the panel. Then lift the front panel up and away from the post on the cabinet and set it aside. Now that we have access to the inside of the washer, we can see that there are 4 shocks. The shocks have pins in them that have to be removed so that we can take the shocks out. To remove the shocks, use a 1/2-inch socket and place it over the end of the pin. Push inward on the socket and then, using a pair of channel locks, grab the head of the pin and pull it out. It may take a little bit of wiggling to get it to come free. Then do the same on the opposite end of the shock to remove it. Now that we have the shock off the washer, we need to check it to make sure that it's not damaged. When we push in and out, there should be resistance, and it should not slide in easily. Also, wiggle the shock side to side and see if there's any play, which would be an indication of the shock being faulty. The last thing to check would be to make sure that the bushings on the ends are not worn out. As you can see here, the shocks have some abnormal play. This indicates that they are faulty and need to be replaced. It is best to replace all of the shocks at the same time. Even though we have found that the shocks are bad, we still want to check the springs, the inner tub, and the rear outer drum bearings to make sure that they were not the cause of the shock's failure. To check the springs, we need to grab the springs and lift up, making sure to take note of where the spring is located on the side. We need to make sure that the springs are located in the same position when reinstalled. We can now remove the spring. Check the spring's tension, and if it's loose or doesn't have much tension, then this would most likely be a bad spring and would need to be replaced. We will now move on to the inner tub. To do this, ensure that the shocks are in place. The first place to start would be to go to the back of the washer and remove the belt. Then, the 15mm bolt that holds the pulley in place. and remove the pulley. We will now need to remove the hoses from the door boot. Then set the dispenser out of the way. You should not need to remove it completely. The next step is to remove the counterweights on the front of the tub. You will want to be careful with the counterweights, as they weigh approximately 15 pounds each and could be damaged if they are dropped. There are 4 bolts that are 13 millimeter heads that you will remove from each of the counterweights. Then lift them off the front of the tub. Next, let's remove the brace that goes across the top of the cabinet. You will then see 13 bolts in the outer drum that are 10 millimeter, which will need to be removed. Once removed, you will then pull the front part of the drum off. At this point, you can pull the inner drum out from the rear outer drum. You will want to check the shaft on the inner drum to make sure that there are no damage to the shaft or support. Check for cracks or if it's broken. A broken shaft support or spider will cause the basket to wobble during the spin and cause an off-balance situation. If the inner basket is okay, then we need to get to the rear outer drum and make sure that the bearings are not damaged. Now we will inspect the bearings on the drum. Check to make sure that they are not wobbling and that they sit flush with the drum. If they are wobbly or appear to have lifted from the drum, they would be faulty and the rear outer drum would need to be replaced. Here's the new shocks. If you've already got one, great. If not, you can pick one up at appliancepartspros.com. Now that we have the new shocks, it's time to put the washer back together. We will first hook the springs into the rear outer drum and lift it into position. Remember to put the springs back in their original position. Put the rear shocks into place and push the pins through to lock them in place. Next, let's get the green ground wire reattached to the back of the drum and reconnect the thermistor wire, the white wire, and the red wires to the heater. Then you will reconnect the pressure dome to the drum. You can then place the inner drum back in place in the rear outer drum. Once the inner drum is back in, make sure that the seal between the 2 halves of the outer drum is in place properly. Then place the front half of the drum and start a couple bolts to hold it in. Once in place, put the rest of the bolts that hold the 2 halves together. We will then put the front shocks in place and push the pins in to lock them. Next, very carefully place the counterweight back onto the front of the drum and secure it with the bolts, and reconnect the hoses to the door boot. Place the dispenser onto the washer. Let's get the brace across the top of the cabinet and secure it. We will now install the front panel back onto the front of the washer and secure it with the screws. Once the panel is in place, let's get the door latch back in place and put the screws in. Then get the door boot into the rim around the door opening and put the band back around it. The next thing will be to put the main top back in place and secure it. Then install the control panel and secure it with the screws. Install the dispenser drawer back into the tray. We will now move to the back of the washer and install the pulley back onto the inner drum shaft and install the bolt. Then install the belt. This can be a little tricky because the belt will be tight. Place the belt on the motor pulley, then pull it up and over the pulley. Once it is over the pulley, it will not go all the way around, and you will need to hold the belt and turn the pulley to get the belt to wrap around it. Place the back cover in place and secure it with the screws, and you are done. Don't forget to plug the washer back in or turn the breaker back on. And there you have it. If you've identified the part causing your GE front load washer to get off balance, make sure to take note of your model number and visit appliancepartspros.com. You can easily find and order the replacement part you need. Most orders arrive within a couple of days. Once your new part comes in, our step-by-step video guides will help you with the installation, making the repair process as seamless as possible. We'd love to hear how your repair went, so please feel free to share your experience in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and happy repairing.